In this video, we'll be going over why some of the cards are on the ban list, specifically focusing on 5 main deck monsters who are all banned because of Crystron Halqifibrax. So in order to explain these 5 cards, we should first explain who Halqifibrax is, and why it's such a problem for these cards to be in the game at the same time as this one little Link monster. On screen, I'll be showing you a series of 4 combos all involving 5 cards on this list, which basically allow you, with any one of those tuners in your opening hand, outside of O-Lion, to end on a board state with multiple negates without really using any other resources from your hand. So in the combo videos, I'm purposefully only using the worst possible cards in the game in the main deck, alongside the combo pieces that are brought out from the deck with Halqifibrax, who has the effect that it's a Link 2 monster who simply requires any 2 monsters as long as one of them is a tuner as its materials. And when it's brought out, you get to special summon any level 3 or lower tuner monster from your hand or deck. The only restriction is the card cannot attack or activate its effect this turn. It also has a secondary effect, which isn't used as often but is also pretty good, where during your opponent's main or battle phase, you can tribute this card to special summon any one tuner synchro monster from your extra deck, which treats the cheated out monster as a proper synchro summon. Generally, cheating out monsters out of the extra deck is an incredibly strong effect, but that's not even the good part of Needle Fiber. The reason Halqifibrax sees so much play is because of the ability to bring out a tuner from the deck on its summon. With that, you'll be able to go into a whole bunch of combos as you've probably seen on screen already, while only using other combo pieces from your deck or extra deck. So essentially, it allows you to turn any of these tuners on this list into a +1 to +5 or more in card advantage, while also easily ending on a couple of negates. And all of these combos are facilitated with a whole bunch of other cards, like Link Cross, Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon, Martial Metal Marcher, Borreload Savage Dragon, Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, Union Carrier, Dragon Buster Destruction Sword, and many others. There's lots of different ways to take advantage of Halqifibrax, and there's no one real set combo, and the combos are even better if you play an actual good deck alongside the tuners, instead of literally the worst cards in the game like I was using in the example videos. Now let's get into the banned cards. First up, we have Destrudo, the Lost Dragon's Frisson. Destrudo is a level 7 tuner monster, which has the effect that if it's in your hand or graveyard, and you control a level 6 or lower monster, you can pay half your life points to special summon this card from either of those 2 places, and also this card's level will be reduced by the level of the monster you selected. And also, the card will place itself at the bottom of the deck if it leaves the field, and all of this with a hard once per turn. So basically, the card can bring itself out very easily, even at the cost of half your life points, and has a couple of other restrictions in order to make it so you can't reuse the card over and over, i.e. hard once per turn and returning to the deck instead of getting banished or something else. The card was always pretty good. It basically allows you to bring out a level 7 synchro monster no problem, since its level will always adjust to the monster you target in order to bring the card out. So if you have a level 4 monster on the field, its level would lower by 4 and it would become a level 3 monster on the field, allowing you to go into level 7 synchro monsters. And that was the main use of Destrudo. The fact that you could bring it out of the graveyard meant it was an excellent combo piece for monsters or cards that had Foolish Burial type effects to send it to the graveyard. And since it was dark and dragon, it was very easy to send to the graveyard with stuff like Armageddon Knight or Dragon Ravine. So it technically wasn't a 1 card level 7 synchro, but there were some cards that could allow you to use Destrudo in order to essentially become a 1 card level 7 synchro, if you could send it directly to the graveyard. And even if it was in your hand, the fact that it was so versatile and allowed you to special summon itself from the hand as well meant it wasn't a brick and was basically always useful. Then, an event happened on March 19th of 2020 where a little old card called Crystron Halqifibrax was going to be released, which was an excellent combo tool that only needed a tuner monster on the field, plus another card in order to bring itself out. And since Destrudo was real easy at getting itself on the field, especially from the graveyard, which is much more important than from the hand, meant it would be too easy for the card to be used in Halqifibrax combos, since it was always good even without Halqifibrax in the game. So, the card was banned in April 2020 in anticipation for the release of Crystron Halqifibrax, since they knew it would be too strong with the addition of that excellent tuner support. and the ability to turn Destrudo into a full board of negates, in any deck that had the extra deck and garnet space for the combo pieces. So, can Destrudo the Lost Dragon's Frisson be unbanned? Not really. Another reason it was too strong was because of the changes of Master Rule 5, or Master Rule 4 revisions, which allowed Synchro monsters to come out a lot easier without Link monsters, since they changed the rules to allow you to special summon monsters from the extra deck to zones other than the extra monster zones or ones that Link monsters are pointing to, except for pendulums. And since Destrudo was already seen a whole bunch of play in Master Rule 4, it would be way stronger in the new unrestricted format, so it was probably due for a ban anyway. How can the card be fixed to be unbanned? Well, if they banned Crystron Halqifibrax, it could probably come off the ban list, but only probably. Another one of the contributing factors to its ban status was just how many good Link monsters combo with the card itself, which wasn't really a big deal before the Master Rule revisions. Even without Halqifibrax, Destrudo would still be strong, and there's a lot of really good synchros to go into, like Borreload Savage Dragon, or strictly speaking of just level 7 synchro monsters, FA Dawn Dragster, who allows you to negate spell or trap cards. Destrudo already has a lot of restrictions on it to try to balance it out. So if you were to fix the card so it could be unbanned without banning a whole bunch of other cards, including Crystron Halqifibrax, what you could do is make it so you can only synchro summon after using its effect, because currently it's kind of strong when combined with Link monsters, and I think that would kind of restrict it enough to only be used in its intended way. And just as a little note, based on some comments I saw in the last videos, I personally don't like erratas very much. I'm only suggesting these changes as kind of a thought experiment, to kind of point out how strong these cards are, if they would need these kinds of crazy restrictions to make them not as broken. Currently, Destrudo is just all kinds of strong because he has like the perfect attribute and type as well as a whole bunch of restrictions already, where it's kind of hard to just put more of them on him, other than just restricting his interactions with Link monsters. Also, I'll be saying Halqifibrax differently a lot in this video because I get lots of conflicting advice on how to say its name correctly. I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Halqifibrax, but I'm probably going to say it in a whole bunch of different ways. Just a heads up. Next up, we have Blackwing Steam the Cloak. This card has the effect that when it leaves the field, you get to special summon a level 1 token to your side of the field. This effect is not once per turn. So if you have a way to constantly remove them from the field and bring it back, you can theoretically summon an infinite amount of tokens. It goes on to have another effect that allows it to bring itself back to the field, where if this card is in your graveyard, you can tribute a monster to special summon this card from the graveyard, although this effect can only be applied once per duel. And if it's brought out in this way, it can't be used as a synchro material monster unless all the other synchro materials are Blackwing monsters. Which doesn't matter if you just use it for Halqifibrax to go into other combos, and then just use the tokens, which have no restrictions on them, to go into more Link monsters. This card was already strong before Halqifibrax was in the game because of its ability to leave an endless amount of tokens behind when you bring it out, and due to its ability to bring itself back. A single normal summon of Blackwing Steam the Cloak, then send it to the graveyard with a Link summon, would bring out a token, and that token would allow you to bring it back, and then go into another Link summon and bring out another token. This one card could net you a +1 in card economy if used for Link summons. The card was obviously balanced around synchros, which is why it existed in the game for so long without too much issue, kind of in the same way as Blackwing Gofu the Vague Shadow. The card was obviously balanced around synchro summons and became broken once a new extra deck summoning method was added to the game. Although Steam the Cloak wasn't as strong as Gofu, not until Halqifibrax came in and allowed you to open up its original, only a +1 in card advantage, into way more depending on how you use the card in combo pieces, which could easily end on a board of full negates like I showed you at the beginning of this video. Because on its own, a single Blackwing Steam the Cloak can allow you to end on a Link 3 monster. If you add on Crystron Halqifibrax into the middle of that combo, you get way more advantage that is kind of ridiculous. Blackwing Steam the Cloak was banned in April 2020 alongside Destrudo, in preparation for Crystron Halqifibrax being added to the game, and of course, the new Master Rule revisions. Tuner monsters that can special summon themselves from the graveyard are just too good alongside Link monsters, especially one specific Link monster. Can Blackwing Steam the Cloak be unbanned? Assuming they also ban Crystron Halqifibrax? Probably not. Again, the other reason the card was banned was because of the Master Rule revisions, and the fact this card can summon an infinite amount of tokens, and the tokens can be used with Link monsters very easily. As part of the reason why cards like Link Cross are considered overpowered, all it does is bring out 2 token monsters that can't be used for Link materials. Even if they banned Halqifibrax, they still probably wouldn't be able to unban Steam the Cloak. How can the card be fixed to be unbanned? Probably slapping a hard once per turn on its token summoning effect. That would go a long way to fix its problems, but I don't think even that would be enough, since just being able to bring out 1 token is more than good enough for its combo setup. So instead, probably update the restrictions on how it can be used. Like with the Destrudo suggested fix, only allowing you to do synchro summons after this card brings itself out from the graveyard, which would ruin its interaction with Link monsters completely and kind of make it usable in the way it was intended. Next up, we have Glow Up Bulb. This card simply has the effect that if it's in your graveyard, you can send the top card of your deck to the graveyard in order to special summon it, and it also has a once per duel restriction on this effect. Glow Up Bulb and Blackwing Steam the Cloak are good indications that not even once per duel restrictions can stop a card from being overpowered. Now, Glow Up Bulb was actually first banned in March of 2012, as it was always a really strong single enabler, and they really wanted to stop people from using synchro decks when the new Xyz monsters came out. So they banned a whole bunch of really good tuner and plant support in order to kind of force people to use the new Xyz monsters. Then as new Xyz monsters came out and they became much better than their first initial release, they finally took Glow Up Bulb off the ban list in October of 2015, about 3 years later. And it really didn't do much in the meta. By this point, we had very strong Xyz monsters and even the new pendulums coming out, so Glow Up Bulb only saw niche success even though it had a really strong graveyard effect. Then when Link monsters came out, Glow Up Bulb did see some new success in a couple of plant-based Link decks, but not really in the TCG, more of an OCG thing where they got Halqifibrax early, as well as Aroma Seraphi Jasmine. So the card got banned way earlier in the OCG than in the TCG. Although this video is about TCG ban list stuff, for now anyway. Then in April of 2020, alongside Destrudo and Blackwing Steam the Cloak, Glow Up Bulb got banned in preparation for Crystron Halqifibrax being added to the game. As with a single Glow Up Bulb, you could start all of the combos associated to Halqifibrax as shown at the beginning of the video in order to easily end on a board of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, Borreload Savage Dragon, Herald of the Arc Light, True King of All Calamities, or even a nice combo of Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon equipped with Dragon Buster Destruction Sword, which gives you the double whammy of negating your opponent's monster effects while also locking them out of special summons from the extra deck. Of course, you can't go into all of these monsters at the same time, but you could kind of go into a combination of 2 of them pretty easily, which all started with a single Glow Up Bulb in your hand, while also allowing you to add extra cards to the graveyard with its excellent mill effect. The conditions for bringing this card out of the graveyard are kind of a plus to a lot of decks that use the card. Currently, you're able to gain too much advantage from a single Glow Up Bulb, because tuners that can special summon themselves from the graveyard are incredibly strong in the current metagame. That has the Master Rule revisions in place, alongside powerful Link monsters like Crystron Halqifibrax, Link Cross, Union Carrier, and Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon. Can Glow Up Bulb be unbanned? If they banned Crystron Halqifibrax? Probably not. If they also banned Link Cross and Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon in addition to Halqifibrax, then maybe, yeah. I think it would still probably be strong as long as there was excellent synchro monsters to make use of its effect, but currently its interactions are broken because of Link monsters and the Master Rule revisions. How can the card be fixed to be unbanned? Well, kind of like the other 2 suggestions, just make it so you can only synchro summon after the card uses its effect. That would limit its potential to be used with Link monsters, and of course allow it to be used in its intended way, or at the very least only be able to special summon synchro monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn. That way they can still be used in other combo pieces that don't involve Link monsters. Next up in this video, we have Jet Synchron. This card is kind of like Glow Up Bulb, a level 1 tuner that can special summon itself from the graveyard. Only this card requires you to discard a card from your hand in order to perform the special summon. So it's not an inherent +1 like Glow Up Bulb, and instead, a hand neutral effect, since you can give up 1 card in your hand you control in order to bring out a card from the graveyard back to the field. And the card doesn't have a once per duel restriction on this, but the card does banish itself when it leaves the field, and does have a hard once per turn. So while you may not be able to use it more than once per turn, you can actually use the effect multiple times during the duel. Although the fact the card has a much harsher restriction on its special summon than Glow-Up Bulb always just kind of made the card a worse Glow-Up Bulb. That's why the card avoided the ban list when Halqifibrax was added to the game. After the April 2020 ban list and Halqifibrax was released, Jet Synchron kinda shot up as one of the most used tuners in the game, because they could just use the card in place of Glow-Up Bulb for all of the excellent Crystron Halqifibrax combos. It even had the added benefit of having a search in the form of tuning, and some specific synchro monsters that worked exclusively with synchron monsters. So after a couple of months of dominating the spot of the most used tuner monster in the game, the card eventually got banned in September of 2020, about 5 months after Crystron Halqifibrax was added to the game. So can Jet Synchron be unbanned? If they banned Crystron Halqifibrax? Maybe. It already has better restrictions than all the other tuner monsters I've talked about so far. However, the fact that it can special summon itself from the graveyard is still kind of a problem. Currently, there is another card called Plague Spreader Zombie, which can also special summon itself from the graveyard and is a tuner monster, and kind of has the same restrictions as Jet Synchron, where it requires you to lose advantage from your hand in order to bring it out from the graveyard, and even banishes itself when it leaves the field. However, it doesn't really see play because it's not as easy to set up as Halqifibrax combos, since you can't use Link Karibo with it. But you can use Salamangreat Almirage to basically do the same thing, only without as much freedom, as you can't then use Link Karibo later on to convert tokens into effect monsters from the graveyard. How can Jet Synchron be fixed to be unbanned? If they banned Crystron Halqifibrax, that might be enough. Jet Synchron isn't as much advantage as the previous 3 spots. It's just its interactions with Halqifibrax allowed to generate so much advantage that its little downside isn't even really a downside. In fact, some decks like the fact that it allows you to discard in order to set up the graveyards further, which is another reason why Plague Spreader Zombie isn't really used, because that card requires you to send the card back to your deck, which is strictly worse. Although outside of just banning one Link monster, which probably wouldn't solve all of its problems anyway, probably also have to hit Auroradon. If you could only special summon synchro monsters from the extra deck after you use its graveyard effect, it wouldn't be that bad. In fact, it probably wouldn't see play at all if it had that effect. And finally, last off on this video, we have Mecha Phantom Beast O-Lion, the final monster on the ban list because of Halqifibrax. Well, kind of. As you can probably figure out from the rest of the video, it's not only Halqifibrax that makes this card strong, it's just a big contributing factor to it. Now, Mecha Phantom Beast O-Lion is definitely used with Crystron Halqifibrax combos, but not in the same way as the previous 4 cards. You see, this one was one of the best targets to bring out of the deck with the effect of Halqifibrax that allows it to special summon a level 3 or lower tuner monster from your hand or deck. Bringing out O-Lion would give you a machine type tuner monster on the field, which matched the type of Halqifibrax, who is also machine type, and could then allow you to go into Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon. However, even outside of that, O-Lion has the effect that when it's sent to the graveyard, no matter how it's sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a Mecha Phantom Beast token to your side of the field, which is a level 3 token with no stats and is also machine type. The fact that it's a level 3 token means it's much more useful for synchro plays than the usual level 1 tokens that are normally summoned. In fact, it's such a big deal that the card was commonly used even without ever touching Auroradon. Although Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon is a huge contributing factor to Mecha Phantom Beast O-Lion being banned, since it was released in the exact same set in the TCG that brought us Halqifibrax, and the card just comboed a little bit too well together, where even after O-Lion got banned, Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon is still seeing tons of competitive success. What the card does is it's a Link 3 monster that requires 2+ machine type monsters as materials, and when it's Link summoned, you get to special summon 3 Mecha Phantom Beast tokens. And remember how I said these tokens are better than normal tokens because of their high level? Well, Auroradon facilitates all kinds of synchro plays thanks to the ridiculous advantage it gets when it comes out. And the only restriction is you can't summon more Link monsters for the rest of the turn. That almost does nothing to slow down the combos with Auroradon, as the card also has a couple of other effects where you can tribute up to 3 monsters in order to use one of its 3 effects. Generally, you use its Tribute 2 monster effect that allows you to special summon a Mecha Phantom Beast monster from your deck, namely Mecha Phantom Beast O-Lion. Funny enough, most of the combos with O-Lion are done with Halqifibrax not even bringing it out first. The combo was as follows. First, they would use Halqifibrax to bring out Deskbot 001, which is a level 1 machine type tuner that has the effect that if 2 or more machine-type monsters are special summoned at the same time, while this card is in the graveyard, you can special summon it. So they would just use Despot and Halqifibrax to go into Mecha Phantom Beast Aurorodon, which would special summon 3 tokens at once, which would proc the effect of Despot 001 in the graveyard to bring itself out. And then Aurorodon would bring out O-Line from the deck, and you'd have 2 tuner monsters on the field, as well as 2 other tokens, assuming you use Aurorodon as one of the tributes for its effect. And then once O-Line was used for a synchro summon, it would summon another eye-level token, which could then just be used for more plays. For O-Line, it's really strong with Halqifibrax, but it's even better with Mecha Phantom Beast Aurorodon in the game at the same time. Mecha Phantom Beast O-Line was banned in September 2020 alongside Jet Synchron. Can Mecha Phantom Beast O-Line be unbanned? Currently, not at all. Even after O-Line got banned, Aurorodon is still seeing tons of play alongside Halqifibrax. Losing one of their best targets only slowed them down a little bit, so it wouldn't really make sense bringing it back in the current format with those 2 little cards still running around in the game. How can the card be fixed to be unbanned? This one is kind of a tough one because it's not really used in the same way as the previous 4 tuner monsters. This one is almost exclusively used when it's brought out from the deck, instead of a starting combo like the other 4. Although since it can be brought out with 2 of the Problem Link monsters, it makes sense that it was hit while the other problem cards like Despot 001 avoided the ban list for the time being. The card already has a hard once per turn on the token it summons, and it doesn't really do anything on its own. It's more the fact that it's just an excellent target for 2 other strong cards that kind of make it strong because it can also summon a token when it leaves the field, and just happens to be a tuner. If they wanted to fix the card, just removing the fact that it's a tuner would probably make the card completely unplayable, while not changing anything else about its effect. Although outside of just banning the other cards that take advantage of it, I can't really think of anything to fix the card in his little thought experiment, and I don't seriously suggest removing the fact that it's a tuner from the monster. More of a case to describe that some cards are just kind of broken because of other cards in the game, and there's not much you can do about the card itself to fix it, since it already has reasonable enough restrictions on it. The card did also see play before those Link cards were introduced anyway, it just wasn't broken until those 2 Link monsters are added to the game, as well as the Master Rule revisions. So I don't have a very good answer on how to fix this card for it to be unbanned, other than just calling for the ban of 2 other Link monsters, or slapping some crazy restrictions to the token summon, like not being able to special summon non-Mecha Phantom Beast monsters afterwards. Alright, and that's the video. And as always, if you have suggestions for future videos to be made just like this one, I'd love to hear about them down in the comments, as well as ideas on how to improve this series in the future. And also, did you know only 36.3% of people who watch these videos are actually subscribed to the channel? If everyone who watched these videos subscribed, I could easily beat the sub count of my World of Warcraft channel by the end of the month, which currently has 250,000 subscribers.